Zoom formation call for zones 33 and 34. First of all, before we start, a very happy New Year to all of you, and I hope you had a wonderful season, Christmas season, holiday season, and wonderful New Year. So Director Peter, as some of you may know, unfortunately won't be here today. He is in the process of meeting with the Mayor of Guadalupe in District 7030 as he continues his travels around my part of the world. So we wish him well, and we look forward to seeing him next week when he comes back. I'm personally excited about the prospects of 2022, and we continue to move forward as we know in an uncertain world. And you've probably heard that International Assembly will now be held only virtually in early February. But a few speakers who are going to be on that program, including myself, will be flying to Orlando this weekend to record our parts. And just so you know, RI President-elect Jen will deliver her theme speech on January 20th. So I'm sure that would be something to look out to know what's happening in the coming year. So we pivot, we adapt, and today is very much a forward-looking meeting with two great presenters. And I'd like firstly to welcome Rotary International Director Nominee Gordon Macanal. Gordon, welcome. Great to see you with us. I understand you've happily recovered from Hogmanay, so you're able to be with us today. So,
I have indeed. Thank you very much.
so that's the good news. We also have Beth who will present on some forward-thinking topics as well. But first, I'd like to introduce Zone 33's very own Empowering Girls Ambassador, Dawn Rochelle, and she's going to give us an update on the Rotary Empowers Girls Now seminar to be held on January 13th. Dawn, over to you.
Thank you so much, Director-elect Jeremy, and Happy New Year, everyone. On behalf of Director Peter and the Empowering Girls team representing Zone 33 and 34, Tina Fishlin and I are so excited to launch the first of 3 virtual webinars entitled Empowering Girls Now. We start this coming Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we hope that you've noticed the email in your inbox or the social media posts that are happening. Have you already registered? If you have, awesome. Have you also invited others? If not, we hope that you do. I will place the link in the chat for you at the end just to make it easy to make sure you get registered. Equality is a fundamental human right. It is necessary for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. Still, girls and women worldwide face inequities in areas including health and education, and they experience violence and poverty at higher rates than men. As one of his key initiatives, President Shaker has prioritized projects that focus on improving the health, education, well-being, and economic security of girls across our globe. All Rotarians and guests are welcome this Thursday, again at 11 a.m. Eastern, as we learn from Elizabeth Yusevich, Rotary International Director and Chair of the Empowering Girls Task Force, and also Dr. Josephine Bajambo, Rotary International Representative to UNICEF and the United Nations office in Nairobi. And thanks to the fabulous work of the Zone 34 Public Image team, the audio for this webinar will be in English, French, and Spanish. One of the empowering things for me personally, as we have met as a task force, has been the generative conversations and learning from each other and researching what is being done across our zones and our world to empower girls. We want you to have this same opportunity, and it's why we have created this series just for you. So if I invest this time, what will I get? I mean, really, what will I walk away with? I've been a Rotarian long enough to know that someone is saying this in your mind right now. Well, we've built this series for you to ensure that we inspire and connect. Inspiration and ideas for club projects, district conference ideas, club presentations, and so much more. So yes, this will be a recorded webinar because I know someone else might have to miss it, and you may be asking that question, but we really do hope that you can join in person. As the rollout of our series has begun, several of you have messaged Tina and I with some incredible projects. And we know there are hundreds, if not thousands of more projects already happening across our 2 zones to empower girls. We need them in Rotary Showcase so we can help highlight these projects that mean so much to you. Doing good in our world matters, and we need to share these stories of success and their impact. So if you can think of a project right now that empowers girls, I want you to make a note right now to have the project in Rotary Showcase by Thursday this week. I might even give you till next week. Thumbs up if you can help me out. We need to know about these projects that are empowering our girls, like the Rotary Club of Brevard, North Carolina, has partnered with the Global Uplift Project Save a Girl program that it provides adolescent girls with kits of washable, reusable cloth, sanitary supplies to help them manage their period so they can stay in school. A kit costs just $6 US to make, but it's given free to the girl and it lasts for 3 years. The kits are made in sewing centers in Nepal and Kenya that employ local women with well-paid, dignified work. Period poverty is a reality across our globe, and this is just one way that IDEA connects the world to help so that girls can access education. The power of Rotary has always been that we are lifelong learners who want to serve through connection to others. We know that we can increase our impact through projects that protect, empower, and create equity for girls. Please join us to continue to elevate this conversation. When? This Thursday at 11 a.m. We hope to see you. Back to you, Director Jeremy.
Oh, thanks so much indeed, Biddy Dawn. What an excellent program, what an excellent project. And as you probably saw, Arpic Marshall put the link into the chat there. If you didn't, feel free to go in and click on it. It's going to be a wonderful event. So register now and be part of it. I'll be making sure we upload hand wash as a project, Dawn, because that is so involved with releasing girls from the onerous obligation of having to walk over miles of terrain barefoot with 5-gallon containers and to collect water for their families. So if anyone else has any great examples, then please enter them on as well. So congratulations to you and to Tina for your tremendous work on that. Thanks so much indeed. So at this point, I'm very happy to introduce our Rotary International President nominee for 2023 and 24 when he'll be president. So Gordon R. Macanal is a member of the Rotary Club of South Queensferry, Lothian, Scotland. He's a dentist by trade, having owned a busy general dental practice in Edinburgh for many years until stepping back from full-time practice in 2016. He also has extensive experience in training and mentoring dental professionals. Gordon joined the Rotary Club of South Queensferry in 1984 and has held many roles within the club. He was district governor in 97, 98, and served as president of Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland in 2004 to 2005. As a member of the RI Board of Directors between 2007 and 2009, he subsequently served extensively on a number of RI committees. Gordon and his wife Heather are keen supporters of the Rotary Foundation. And in his free time, he enjoys watching rugby, having been a keen player in his younger years. I'm sure he can do some useful moves now if he tries as well. He enjoys good food, wine, and most music types. He enjoys photography and has recently taken up traditional stick dressing. He can tell us more about that later. Gordon and Heather, Heather's a music teacher and classically trained professional singer. They live in the Scottish Borders, beautiful location around 50 miles south of Edinburgh. They have 2 daughters, Rebecca, who runs her own complementary therapy practice in Edinburgh, and Sarah, a lawyer who's married to Greg. They have 2 grandchildren, Ivy, Grace, and Florence May, Ivy, Grace, and Florence May. And today, RI President nominee will address us on Rotary Building Forward Better. Gordon, over to you.
Well, Jeremy and all my friends on the call, and I hope I'm not being too presumptuous by using that term. Thank you for such a warm welcome. Thank you, Jeremy, for such a fulsome and, if I may say, far too generous introduction. You're much too kind. I must say, after 3 months into the job, there's still a certain surreal quality about hearing myself introduced as the president nominee of Rotary International. Who'd have believed that would ever happen? I don't know if any of you remember a movie from a few years back. It starred the Scottish actor Robbie Coltrane, who might be better known to you as Hagrid from the Harry Potter movies. Robbie Coltrane was a priest in a small village in the north of Italy, and by some slip of a pen at a papal conclave, he was made Pope. I must say, over the past few weeks, in the wee small hours of the morning, I've often wondered if perhaps a similar slip of the pen might have taken place in Evanston at the nominating committee for RI president last August. And I keep waiting on a second phone call from Anne Matthews, chair of that committee, to say there was some terrible mistake. Fortunately, despite the error, Robbie Coltrane made a rather good job of being Pope, so there was a happy ending to that movie. I just hope that there's a similar happy ending for me on the 30th of June, 2024. It's a great privilege to be part of your meeting today, even though it's only on a virtual basis, and I really would much rather have been able to join you all in person. But of course, it's the very fact that it is on a virtual basis that's allowed so many to join the call from so many different locations, and it really is good to see everyone. When Peter Kyle first asked me to join you today, it was suggested that I talk about my vision for Rotary. I gave the working title of Building Forward Better, and I'll allude to that further as I progress. I was also told I had to do it in 15 minutes, so what a challenge. Clearly, my vision for Rotary going forward is coloured by the events of the past 2 years and the global pandemic in which we find ourselves. And make no mistake, we are still very much in the grip of this pandemic, especially with such inequitable vaccination rates across the world, coupled with the rising infection rates in the US and elsewhere, along with the announcement only last week of yet another mutation of the virus and all that might bring. There can be no argument we live in challenging times. And I hope you don't think I'm exaggerating when I say things might never be the same again. But you know, that need not be a bad thing. I'm a great believer in looking for the positives in any negative. And there are many, many positives coming out of the current challenging and what some have described as a negative situation. Positives like the opportunity we've all been given to take stock and reevaluate our priorities in life and in the society in which we live. Positives like the opportunity for us to take stock and reevaluate the way we operate in Rotary at every level, from club through district to zone and Rotary International. The phrase "build back better" has been used by many during the coronavirus pandemic to describe how things might look in a post-pandemic world. In fact, I think next to the phrase "you're on mute," it's probably one of the most commonly used phrases we've heard over the last couple of years. But as far as Rotary is concerned, it shouldn't be a question of building back better, but of building forward better. Building back implies a return to the way things were. But for me, that's not an option, as we need to learn from our collective experiences over the last 2 years and take Rotary forward into what people are calling the new normal. It would be a tragedy if we don't learn from the past 24 months, a tragedy and a travesty. So we must all seize this opportunity to take Rotary forward into the future. But we need to do it now, before the opportunity passes. We're changing faster than ever at the moment in terms of embracing new technology. And I think we've probably seen the sort of changes that might have taken place anyway over the next 5 to 10 years take place over the last 2 years. This pandemic has given us a unique opportunity to draw a line in the sand and review our entire method of operating. And as we navigate through it, there's much to be learned as regards our future. Some of the most exciting things about Rotary right now and ahead are the opportunities that come as far as the way we operate at club level, which is, after all, the bedrock of Rotary. We have a one-off opportunity just now to engage with those who, during the pandemic, have embraced the concept of volunteer service and have them join us to allow them to continue to give service. Because if clubs are our bedrock, then membership is our lifeblood. And my vision for Rotary is that clubs, groups, call them what you will, should exist everywhere in a style to suit everyone who has a desire to be part of us and help us fulfill our mission. It's always concerned me that so many new members choose to leave Rotary relatively soon after joining. I was staggered to discover that 1.3 million people joined Rotary in the 10 years to July 2029. Yet over the same period, global membership fell by 20,000. 10% of those who join Rotary leave again during the same year they join. Now, something's wrong somewhere. And with respect, the problem doesn't lie with the new members who choose to leave. It lies with us. We must reduce this turnover. And so the retention of new members through proper engagement, and I stress proper engagement with them, will be very much part of my vision for membership as we move forward. It looks like there's going to be a good base to work from following President Shaker's Each One Get One initiative this year. But you know, with that initiative also comes a great responsibility. And so it's essential that each one keeps one in the years ahead. I'm pleased that we have finally formally recognized the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this will do Rotary good and will definitely help in further promoting us as a place where all can be welcome and all can feel valued. By attracting a truly diverse membership, we'll enhance our presence on the world stage and we'll increase our ability to do impactful service projects, which is, after all, one of the main reasons that we exist. Things are getting better with regards to diversity. You don't need me to sit here and tell you that Rotary will welcome its first female president, Jennifer Jones, on the 1st of July. This is well overdue, and we're happy to be making progress. But still, we see women representing only 24% of Rotary's membership worldwide, and that needs to change. So we've got a lot more work to do, not only to welcome more women into Rotary, but every bit as importantly, to welcome other underrepresented voices as well. Because never forget, diversity is more than simply gender. All minorities matter, and all minorities should be welcome in a Rotary that truly represents our communities. As I've just said, I want Rotary to be a place where all can be welcomed and all can feel valued. To turn to another element of Rotary going forward, allow me to say something about our own charity, the Rotary Foundation. If clubs are our bedrock and membership is our lifeblood, the foundation is the fuel that provides the energy that allows us to carry out our work. As a result of recent developments surrounding polio, and together with the demands of the pandemic and the addition of the environment as an area of focus, our reputation, our ability, and the opportunity to serve has grown substantially, and this requires a strong foundation. Many countries are great supporters of the foundation, and frankly, it could not do what it does without that support. But it saddens me that around 2/3 of Rotarians worldwide make no personal contribution to the Rotary Foundation, particularly at times like these, when the demands on it are increasing. Past RI President Ravi Ravindran, a man for whom I have the utmost regard, recently said, "Not everyone has the resource to make a large contribution. but every Rotarian has the ability to make some contribution to our foundation. And I agree. It's simple economics. We cannot take out of the foundation more than we put in, hence the hard decisions that have had to be taken recently regarding the level of funding for things like global grants. So while I'm president, I hope to support the foundation, not only to increase giving overall, but also I hope to persuade each Rotarian to contribute just something to what is, after all, their foundation, and in doing so, gain true ownership of it. During my 37 years in Rotary, I've seen the innovation and the changes we've made with my own eyes. I've seen what works, and perhaps more importantly, I've seen what does not work. Which brings me nicely to the final element of my vision, which time allows me to share with you today. And something that I have always believed in and which should be central to Rotary going forward, the concept of continuity. I've always been a great advocate of continuity in Rotary. I've tried to practice it at every level of Rotary leadership, be it club, district, or zone, and I see no reason to change that now. I believe strongly in the concept of Rotary's years, plural, where there's a seamless transition between leaders, rather than the concept of my year, singular, where one individual takes us in one direction, only for other individuals to take us in different directions in subsequent years, before we often end up right back where we started, where individuals won't embark on any initiatives that don't complete in their year because they worry they won't get the credit for it. I'm not bothered who gets the credit for something, as long as that something is worthwhile and is done properly. Accordingly, I'm already working with President Shaker and President-elect Jennifer, and I look forward to working with my successor whenever he or she is identified in a true spirit of continuity that sees Rotary move forward on a straight and steady course towards an even better future. My friends, as always, time is the great enemy. And I must draw my remarks to a close in order that I stick to my brief of talking for 15 minutes, although I fear I must be getting very close or may even have exceeded that time already. As any of you who have heard me speak over the last 3 months or so will have heard me quote the US Senator, the late Robert Kennedy, who, addressing the University of Cape Town in South Africa in June 1966, said, and I quote, "Like it or not, we live in interesting times. They are times of danger and uncertainty, but they are also among the most creative of any time in the history of mankind. And everyone here will ultimately be judged, will ultimately judge themselves on the effort they have contributed to building a new world society and the extent to which their ideals and goals have shaped that effort." End quote. 56 years on from Kennedy's address, in these current times of danger and uncertainty, let us recognize that they are also among the most creative of any time in the history of Rotary. Let us make sure we are judged on the effort we have contributed to building a new Rotary and the extent our combined goals and ideals have shaped that effort as we build forward better. Thank you all for giving me this brief opportunity to meet and speak with you. Thank you all for everything you do for Rotary. I wish everybody every success in the years ahead. We're all embarking on a very exciting journey together, and I look forward to working alongside you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Rotary International President Nominee Gordon. Not only inspirational, but very relevant and I think comforting remarks, particularly those in relation to continuity. So thank you so much for those words of wisdom. And I think that certainly gives us a great lift into the new year. You were, by the way, perfect in relation to timing. You were spot on. So that skill has been honed already by the look of it, which bodes well for the future. But we do have a couple of questions because that now gives us time for 5 minutes of questions. So Dr. Geeta Jayaram from District 7620. Geeta has asked, what message do you have for Rotarians who chose not to get vaccinated, despite President Shaker's clear message about walking the walk that we talk about regarding disease prevention? Thoughts on that?
Well, that of course is a very good question. It's a very topical question as well, given the events in Australia over the past few days with Novak Djokovic. Ultimately, it is a personal decision whether people are vaccinated or not. From the minute this pandemic started, I have been a great advocate that we should follow the science. And I have looked at the science, I have followed the science. I believe the science says that vaccination is the route out of this pandemic. I am vaccinated. I have had 2 shots and a booster shot. All my family who are entitled to be vaccinated have been vaccinated. I've had conversations with personal friends and suggested to them that vaccination is the way forward. And so I believe that we should be vaccinated, and I believe that that is the way out of this pandemic. But I also recognize that ultimately it comes down to the individual's choice. And I believe all we can do is show the science and follow the science.
Thanks, Gordon. Absolutely. Dawn, PDG Dawn Michelle has asked, can you speak more about how we can strengthen continuity in Rotary?
Well, I think the way that I have tried to work with continuity is from the time I was club president, way back in the last century. By the time I was club president, I within my club at that time, and I'm happy to say that even some 31 years later, the club still has a continuity group which comprises the president and the immediate past president and the president-elect. And I established that in the club. I established that within my own district when I was governor 25 years ago. And I established it here within Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland when I was president 15 years ago. I think the way to have continuity is for each of these people to speak with each other and to work together and to ensure that we do take things forward, because we've all seen it, we've all seen it in our clubs and in our districts where, one president wants to do something and the next president reverses what has happened, or one district governor wants to go in a certain direction and someone else takes it in a different direction. And so it's all a question of dialogue, and it's a question of encouraging people. And as I was saying to Jennifer when we were talking about this, if Shaker and Jennifer, and particularly Jennifer, myself, and my successor, if we can show that there is continuity, then, you just never know. After 3 years, it might catch on.
Great point. Great point. Thanks so much indeed again. And one more round of applause, please, for an amazing inspiration as well for RI President Nominee Gordon. Great to have you here, and we hope to have you back as you approach that point. And please make sure you don't get any of those phone calls telling that anyone made a mistake. We're looking forward to having you fully on board. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next speaker in our program. It's my honor and pleasure to introduce Beth Queck from the Rotary Club of Bentonville, Arkansas, USA. Beth's affiliation with Rotary began when she was selected to be a Rotary Ambassadorial Scholar and studied at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Upon moving to Bentonville in 2004, she joined the Rotary Club of Bentonville, and she's designed and facilitated breakout sessions on the topics of vocational service and diversity, equity, and inclusion for several Rotary International conventions so far. Last year, she collaborated with Rotary International staff to produce a series of webinars advancing DEI in Rotary. Beth served as vice chair of the Rotary International Global Networking Groups Committee from 2016 to 2019, where she provided oversight and policy direction for Rotary fellowships, Rotary action groups, and vocational service. In 2015-16, she served on the RI Vocational Service Committee. Beth and her husband, Rotarian Ken Leonard, co-founded their club's International Women's Day celebration, a vocational service project providing aspirational role models for girls and women in their communities. She's currently chair of District 6110's International Service and Global Grants Committees, has served on the Rotary Club of Bentonville Board of Directors. She's a major donor, Port Harris Society, Port Harris Fellow, Rotary Foundation benefactor, and was selected the club's Rotarian of the Year in both 2009 and 2015. Congratulations, Beth, and you're here to us today to speak about the Rotary gift. Beth, over to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. And I also want to thank Doug for your excellent behind the scenes running of our meeting today. President-elect Gore, it's wonderful to meet you, hear your inspirational words for us. Let me bring up a short PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll be ready to go here. Okay, just want to confirm that you can see this on your screen. Jeremy, is that, can you see that?
I can see it, Beth.
Thanks, great. So today I'm speaking from my home here in Bentonville in Arkansas, northwest of Arkansas, and we border Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, and the district belong to 6110 cover all 4 of these states. I want to acknowledge that my home sits on the traditional territory of the Sioux, the Quapaw, the Caddo, and the Osage tribes. And I want to express appreciation for these First Americans and their traditional stewardship of this land. And Indigenous land acknowledgement, a way that we recognize the enduring relationship that the first Americans in our country, in our world, have with their traditional territories. And from a personal point of view, it reminds me that the history of this land extends back many, many generations before my European ancestors immigrated here to the United States and to the region. January is Vocational Service Month, and Peter asked I to talk about vocational service. And so what I'd like to do is talk about the role of vocational service in giving the gift of Rotary. As Jeremy mentioned, I was a recipient of a Rotary Foundation Ambassadorial Scholarship Foundation. And at the time that I applied for scholarship, I was a cub reporter on a newspaper in St. Joseph, Missouri, at the St. Gazette. This was before the internet, and I had to go to the library to find out this scholarship. And I also had to find a Rotary Club. And of course, at that time, we were a all-male organization. So for a young woman just out of college looking anxious to see the world, it was a little bit intimidating. But fortunately, I found a club in St. Joseph, Missouri, the St. Joe East Club, and I connected with a Rotarian who is actually on this call today, Steve Capelli. He was an administrator for the local college, someone who was in higher education. And in an act of vocational service, Steve helped me through the Rotary application process. We reconnected last year when he was district governor for 7630 in this zone. And I was so thrilled to meet him again, and he still had a copy of my application. So I think Steve has been a very good administrator. I was awarded a full scholarship for a postgraduate study year at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. That was in the year 1980-81. Now, as a journalist, a cub reporter, I was making $250 a week. Now that adds up to $13,000 a year. And as you can see, my payment schedule, letter of award, I had just gotten a scholarship that was $10,632. All my expenses and all of my travel for a full year. So you can see how important this Rotary gift was to me. Following that year Kong. I eventually was able to launch an international career in government business. And our daughter, Sasha, we had the opportunity to live and work in Beijing and Hong Kong. And then we moved back to the United States and we lived in Bentonville, where Ken joined our local Rotary Club. And I went to work at Walmart in the women's economic empowerment area. And that's when I learned about Rotary's avenue of service and vocational service in particular. One of my jobs was women's economic empowerment programming and training. Ken happened to be the president of our club, and we had the opportunity to go to a Rotary convention for the first time in Sydney, Australia, where we learned from the Australian Rotarians that they were doing International Women's Day programs. We decided that Bentonville needed an International Women's Day event to uplift the women and girls in our community. Organizing this event, Vocational Service Action, was using my vocation to serve our community. And I think you're going to recognize two women who were speakers at our very first event, Jennifer Jones and Mary Beth Growney-Celine, who came and participated. This ultimately led to another opportunity to serve on this Rotary International Committee that had the oversight of vocational service. And I was serving with Robert Hall, who also is on this call today. And I want to recognize Robert for his leadership in expanding the Rotary umbrella to include affinity groups. This important policy change enabled us to then bring in the LGBTQ+ fellowship under the Rotary umbrella and bring in more diverse voices into Rotary. But during the same period of time, all was well with my club culture. And I want to share a story about this. In my club, for several years, we had a very painful situation. We had a decorated war veteran who was unfiltered. He had a really good heart, but he made many, many inappropriate comments. And there's one particular club meeting that really sticks in my mind. We had a visitor who walked in wearing a baseball hat. Now, if you're in the military, I think there's a very strict rule that you always take your hats off when you walk inside a room. But in the spirit of diversity, equity, and inclusion, there was an invisible difference. This particular visitor was a chef. And so, of course, in his vocation, he always wore a hat inside. Unfortunately, our Rotarian member called him out publicly. It was embarrassing. And as you can imagine, this chef never visited our club again. None of us intervened that day. We lost a potential member and we allowed those microaggressions to continue. I'm ashamed to say that I was a person of inaction, and so were my other club members. You know, diversity has always been one of Rotary's core values. And I personally am energized by our focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I really appreciate Rotarian Gordon's reaffirmation of that. Because by looking and seeing in on DEI, really helps us look at our norms and our policies with fresh eyes. And a policy that's put in place that's very important for us is an adult harassment policy, because this enables us and empowers us to be able to types of situations when they occur. Now, reflecting back on vocational service, the concept of vocational service is rooted in the object of Rotary, which is our philosophical statement about our purpose and our responsibilities. And in particular, that second object of Rotary encourages to foster ethical behavior and standards and recognize and embrace all work and how we can all use our skills and our experience to serve society. To close, I want to just say that 40 years ago, I received a gift of Rotary because there was an individual Rotarian whose profession, higher education, and he was willing to employ his vocation to help a small town girl from Missouri obtain a Rotary ambassadorial scholarship that was life-changing. So as we go through the month of January, I encourage all of us to reflect on how we can use our vocation, our skill, our experience to serve and change lives. Thank you very much.
Beth, thank you so much for that. Not only a very interesting presentation, sort of focusing on a number of key themes, but that a very important one, linking back key avenue and service, and one that distinguishes us in many ways from other organizations, vocational, to the utmost importance of DEI as we move forward as an organization, and how we can in understanding diversity, we can leverage it towards a stronger Rotary. So thank you so much for those messages and those thoughts. I think that there's a lot for us to build on as we move forward into 2022. And I'm absolutely sure we'll be hearing more of the importance of DEI to us as an organization, how we can grow stronger and better because of it as we move forward into our President Jen's year, as well as in, of course, our President Nominee Gordon's year. So thank you so much. Now, we have a couple of minutes. Does anyone have any questions? If you could either type them quickly in the chat, or if you could perhaps, and this is going to be tough to do because I want to congratulate you today on I think it's almost record numbers we have on the call. So we have 122 of you. So I have no doubt that that's largely because of the quality and the topics of our speakers, that why you're here. If anyone has any questions, please wave around. I'm flicking through the screens. Barbara Scheib. Hey, Barbara, how are you? Great to see you. If you can unmute, that'd be great. Barbara, can you unmute? I think you're muted right now.
Okay,
Perfect.
now you can hear me?
We can indeed. Yeah.
Okay. Beth, our zone meeting last year featured a committee all dressed in what I assumed were stereotypical mafiosa type getup. And I'm not Italian, so I don't take this personally, but I was appalled that a group would have been pinpointed as a humorous group. I'm an Arab American. I'm very sensitive. I've always been taught to respect everyone and not to pull any group out of the bag and laugh at them. I spoke to somebody about this, and I was told to contact Holger Knack, which I did. He sent me an email and told me that more in so many words that I was crazy. Enough said. It's still something that upsets me.
You weren't crazy.
Well,
And it's okay that it
other people think so.
and I'm glad it upsets you, because I think we're all in a learning process, and we do have a DI Rotary International Task Force, and that would be a great place to bring this conversation to, because on our task force, we actually have really top-notch global DEI professionals who I think could then provide the appropriate type of intervention with the leadership to help them better understand how representation and misrepresentation can really affect inclusion and the feeling of belonging. And so I would, suggest that rather than just dropping it, that group, they're on the website. Todd, who's in my district, is one of those members, and I've done programming with them. And I think they could help us. What we need is, guides, people to help us guide through types of conversation, because I understand how difficult it is. But at the same time, it's important to understand that representation is important, and how we are represented in a dignified way is also important as well. So your sensitivities to me are right on target, and we are in a new era, and we're all learning as we go along of how to better accommodate each other so that we do feel like we belong.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you. I
Beth,
am
and-
on our district's DEI committee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and use those resources to help have those hard conversations. I think
Thank you
that's
so much.
one way for us to go forward.
Yeah. Thanks, Barbara, and thanks, Beth. And without giving too much away, we're going to be hearing a lot more of this as we move forward in terms of this discussion. It is very much a conversation. It's very much a journey that we're all on, because I'm sure no one, when they put those that marketing campaign together, had a thought in their mind that it would be offensive. That wasn't their intention, but sometimes intentions are not the things that we can base our actions on. So Barbara, thanks for bringing that. By the way, Vice President Valerie Wafer is the chair of that task force, so I suggest you reach out to her. I will say I've been working closely with her in relation to some initiatives that will be announced in the next couple of weeks. So it's an interesting point you raise, and hold this space. Well, I just want to thank you both, both yourself and RA President Nominee Gordon for being here with us today. I think they've been intriguing conversations and great presentations that will really start us off on the year on the right foot, the calendar year that is, and create food for thought with us in many, many ways. So thank you both very much for being here with us. Thank you, Dawn, for the update on the Empowering Girls Now presentation. I would encourage people to go to register for that. Just to let you know that the next Zoomformation call, hopefully with Director Peter arriving safely back from the Caribbean, will be on Monday, February the 7th at 1 p.m. and the focus will be on peace building and conflict prevention.